People, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview. First things first, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, and as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Chelsea are back in action on Sunday, looking to try and rectify the Anfield humiliation in midweek and welcoming back Wolves pretty quickly after the fixture on Christmas Eve. It's been a quick turnaround. We're back in action again. And this one really is the definition of a mid-table clash, 10th versus 11th. Only 2 points between the sides, and each side has won 3 of their last 5 games. So, yeah, all right, despite a couple of defeats in the midweek, the league form has not been too bad. But delighted to be joined by Dave from Talking Wolves, as always. Mate, thanks for coming back. Always a pleasure. How are you feeling about this one? Obviously, when I last spoke to you before the Christmas Eve game, you boys turned us over at Molineux, which I was kind of expecting. And you were a little bit, you were saying in the build-up, that you were saying that Wolves' form had been a bit patchy. Things had kind of dipped a little bit under Gary O'Neill. You've progressed in the FA Cup, 3 wins in your last 5 games. You a little bit happy with how things are going?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Firstly, thank you for having me back on. But yeah, since that Chelsea game, to be honest, we've gone on a really nice run. We were unbeaten in a while up until the midweek game against United, which I'm sure I'll talk about. But yeah, we've done all right. We've put ourselves in a decent position. January, although hasn't been a huge amount of games throughout January for us, it was a productive month. We had players out at AFCON, still got players at AFCON and the Asia Cup right now. So we had a squad a lot smaller than you'd want. But yeah, we did all right. Got some good wins in the league. Picked up a point against Brighton away from home, which is never easy as well, and stopped them from scoring, which is not many teams are able to do. And like you say, yeah, got through to the next round of the FA Cup. So we're doing all right, to be honest. I think the club are a little bit disappointed that they haven't been able to add much quality in January. Obviously, it's a very difficult time, the January transfer window, with a lot of clubs sort of looking at their finances with any implications coming in. But yeah, I think the squad that we've got is more than good enough to compete, and probably would say, especially considering the circumstances of when Gary O'Neill came in, they're sort of playing above their expectations right now. So good season, good month, better than planned, better than expected for Wolves. But yeah, frustrating night last night against Manchester United, which Wolves will be hoping to move on from on Sunday against Chelsea.
Absolutely. I'm just having a look at the table now, mate. Obviously, we both played 22 games. The only difference is you've drawn 1 more game than us. Now, we've won 9 games out of 22. When I see that, I just think, that's so bad. Like, for us to have won 9 out of 22 is poor. But, it is what it is right now. You talk about January window, quiet for everyone, really. Not very little money spent in the Premier League, very little money spent in general around the leagues in Europe. One player you were looking at, obviously looking to get a centre forward in. Hwang's obviously away at the Asian Cup. You looked at Amanda Broja. Obviously, you offered a straight loan, which we didn't want to entertain, but then we actually ended up entertaining a straight loan anyway with Fulham on deadline day. Do you think Broja would have moved the needle for you guys? Do you think he would have made a difference, just an extra body up there? I know you've got Nathan Fraser, who came on against United. I think he played in the FA Cup as well. He's okay, I presume. But do you think you could have done with an extra centre forward? Do you think you're light going into the rest of the season?
Yeah, we are light. I think it's been striker, really a proper number 9 has been an issue for Wolves really ever since we came up. I think, we signed Jimenez the first year we came up and sort of hit the jackpot with him, really, because he stayed fit. He was scoring goals. We qualified for Europe that first season and, he smashed it. He played really well in the league and the FA Cup. Second season, he stayed fit throughout the whole campaign and smashed, 30 plus goals in all comps for us. And then obviously the following season was where he got that serious injury. And we were quite, Wolves were never, we were quite lucky with how fit Jimenez always stayed, but we never really had much luck in regards to buying a second striker. Fabio Silva didn't work out. We tried Patrick Catrone, who failed at Wolves. Willian Jose came in on loan. And it's sort of come up to now where Wolves are almost playing without a striker, almost playing with like a false 9 and like a really fluid front 3. So it would have been nice to bring somebody in. I don't think Armando Broja would have come in and I'm not going to sit here and say he would have played every single minute for us, because he wouldn't have. But it would have been a nice option to have, another dimension to add to the team. Nathan Fraser is a young, talented player, but you would say probably not quite ready for the Premier League just yet. He's just come back from a long injury, only really played under 21s football, never really been out on loan. So Broja would have been nice, but I think with the finances Chelsea were asking for, which I completely understand from their point of view, it's a very, very difficult market. It was never going to be a good deal for Wolves to make. I think if it was £4 or £5 million just for 3 or 4 months of football, I don't think Wolves were that desperate. I think the squad that we've got is good. Juan coming back, as long as everyone can stay fit or fairly fit, we should have a good team going into the end of the season.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot to like about Wolves. I think the midfield's decent. Obviously, the forward line's good. Cunha, Neto, decent players. Obviously, Huang being unavailable for the game on Sunday is definitely a positive from a Chelsea perspective. 100%. Like there's he's probably Wolves' most clinical finisher. He's top scorer for you this season, is he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So Huang's really kicked on. Had a good start to the season. Yeah.
And obviously, Pedro Neto, I think, is a top class player. I think he's someone that could definitely play for a Champions League club. I mean, just on Neto briefly, mate, do you think, if you're being honest, this is his last season at Wolves?
Yeah, I think so. I think you normally feel it as a football fan when you know at the time for a certain player is coming to an end. I say that with Ruben Neves, it felt for about 3 years that was the case. He came, wasn't summer just gone the summer before, and he was crying in front of the fans, and he stayed for another year after that. But with Neto, I could see he's had a long-term injury. He came back, he had a few cameos off the bench, and the issue with Neto has been in previous years. He has a really good start to the season, gets injured, and then never really can get back to the form. This year, he was coming off the bench, and it was like he'd never been injured. He looked so sharp and quick. But the last couple of games, I know he's actually scored at both games against Manchester United and West Brom. I'm just watching him, and sometimes it just feels like he's been a bit lazy, and and it's frustrating me a little bit. And I just hope in his head he's not getting a bit too big for his boots, thinking, "Oh well, I can get a big move in the summer. It doesn't matter." So I'm hoping that he can carry on kicking on, because I think for him, every chance of him getting an even bigger move for Wolves, obviously to squeeze a bit more money. But yeah, I'm fairly certain and fairly confident that he'll probably be moving on. It just depends on who to and what fee Wolves can get for him.
I mean, obviously, in terms of Wolves as well, obviously, game on Sunday at Stamford Bridge. Home form has been decent at Molineux. I'll be honest, I've not really been across the away form. What's your away form been like? Is it you struggling a little bit there compared to what you're doing at Molineux?
Yeah, the away form's not been as good. I mean, up until yesterday's defeat at United, our home form was unbelievable, like really, really strong at home. Away form's picked up a little bit, but just inconsistent away. I think it's almost as if, West Ham was one I think it was the week before we played you guys last, where West Ham's always a strange one because when you're away from home, sometimes you expect the home team to have more of the ball and you have to play counter-attacking style, but West Ham just sat really deep and Wolves really just unsure how to sort of, we're not a great team when we've got lots of the ball, if I'm completely honest. But it's picked up a little bit. We smashed Brentford away from home. Got a positive result. I say positive, that goalless draw against Brighton as well. And we have picked up some nice wins, but then we have also dropped points against Luton and Sheffield United away from home. So just no real consistency from Wolves. And I think that's the key thing. I've kept saying that if Wolves can match or better their results from the first half of the season, we'll finish in a good place. But that obviously means or relies on us beating you guys on Sunday, which is never going to be easy. But yeah, away form has been a bit ropey. I just so inconsistent. You just don't know what to think going into away games at the moment.
It's the same with our away form. I think I'm just lucky that this one's at home for us. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to win or anything, but our away form, I think, one win in the last 7 away from home. Obviously, got absolutely torn apart Wednesday night at Anfield, second best in every single department. At home, we're 10 unbeaten. Yes, you can look at the caliber of opposition, and all right, there's not really been any teams that you'd say are decent teams, but considering where we've been at home, it is progress and it is signs of improvement. But I think Wolves are capable of getting a result. I think we beat you last season, but I think I remember a season before we had a 2-2 draw. I think Connor Cody scored last minute or something like that to get the equaliser. So look, Wolves are more than capable of getting a decent result. I think, from a Chelsea perspective, I just look at it and I just think every time I think we're making a bit of progress, there's a game that comes, we get torn apart, and you just think, oh, we're back to square one again. Like, you literally don't know what Chelsea's going to turn up. I mean, from a Wolves perspective, looking at this game, mate, you're going to come into Stamford Bridge, like, you don't really know what to expect. It could be a Chelsea that played against Man City or played against Arsenal for 80 odd minutes, or it could be the Chelsea that was at Liverpool, which was horrendous. I mean, does that kind of make it difficult for you to know what to expect heading into this game, because you've got no idea what Chelsea's going to turn up, because there's not really any level of consistency of this team.
Yeah. It's interesting. We did a podcast earlier this week and we looked at our next 2 fixtures at United at home and Chelsea away, and it could have so easily been you go into those games, you could walk away with 6 points, or you could walk into those games and walk away with absolutely nothing. Because I think the issue, not so much an issue, but the thing is with United and Chelsea, is that they're massive clubs. They've had great form. They've won Premier League titles. And I think genuinely that's where the fans still think, or at least want them to be. And Chelsea, in Chelsea's case, spent so much money, and it's not a bad team. You look player for player, Chelsea have got very good football players, and if for some reason, and it's the same at Manchester United, some reason it's just not clicking often enough. So, like I said in the game against United, we could walk into that game and lose 3-0, or we could easily go into it and win 3-0. There's just, you don't know what to expect, and that's, to a degree, a little bit similar to Wolves, really. I think in terms of quality, we're nowhere near as good as Manchester United or Chelsea, player for player. But we're just lacking that little bit of consistency. So very difficult to go into these games. Obviously the managers and head coaches, they'll have an idea of how they want to play and how to approach this game. But as fans, you go into it and you really don't know what to expect, because you could just go either way. It's one of those games.
And obviously, you had the disappointment of losing 4-3 to United in the week. Having got yourselves back into the game, but it's so disappointing to lose like in the dying seconds. But do you think the team will go into this game feeling buoyed by that performance, that they got themselves back into the game, or do you think there'll be a sense of deflation that we got so close and then those efforts ended up being for nothing? Which sort of way do you think Gary O'Neill will be sort of looking at that one?
Gary O'Neill's he's got a decent track record of sort of reacting to things, and it seems like, as an outsider, the morale and the spirit in this squad is probably better than it's ever been. Especially the best we've seen probably since Nuno was in charge of the club a few years ago, and they've got a real connection between the fans and the players. I genuinely thought the first half yesterday against United was probably one of the worst halves of football I've seen under Gary O'Neill. I just don't know what was wrong with Wolves, but second half we looked like a different team. In scoring 3 goals, a lot of fans moaning that we haven't brought a striker in, but the fact that we can still score 3 goals, albeit with a sort of controversial penalty, but that, sometimes you need those to fall in your favour. I think, some of the messages that the players, put out after the game sounds like they're going to be up for this game. They want to sort of move on as quick as they can. And I'm hoping, obviously, as a fan, that there's a reaction after that defeat against United.
And in terms of, obviously, it's a quick turnaround. Thursday night, then playing again Sunday afternoon. How many changes do you expect from that side that played against United? Do you expect Gary O'Neill to make a lot of changes, maybe 1 or 2 here and there? I mean, Aït-Nouri is a key player for you. He was back from AFCON. He come off the bench. I don't think Doherty was particularly good in the game against United. Do you expect someone like him to go back into the starting lineup?
Yeah, I think there'll have to be a couple of changes. I think Aït-Nouri is a given. The team completely changed when he came on. I felt last night we seemed so much better. I actually think going forward he's fantastic, but defensively against big teams as well, when you've got really talented players, he does a job. Doc, just good squad player, I suppose, to have, but just nowhere near good enough to be starting, especially against teams the caliber of United and Chelsea. So Aït-Nouri's got to come in. I'll probably bring João Gomes in as well, the central midfielder. Possibly with Tommy Doyle, who's been great for Wolves, but just played a lot of football. When Lamina was off on compassionate leave, João Gomes was suspended. So Tommy Doyle literally had to run that midfield on his own for 3 or 4 weeks. So I'd give him a well-earned rest and bring João Gomes in, add a bit more energy and steel into the midfield. And fingers crossed Wolves are up for it. Definitely need some changes, but I would predict those are the 2 that we'd see on Sunday.
I mean, and then like just thoughts on Chelsea, really, mate. I mean, what do you expect to see from Chelsea? I know, like I've just gone about, you don't really know what you're going to get. Yes, there's some players that have been playing well. Nkunku being back in the mix again is massive for us. Even when he come on at halftime in the week against Liverpool, he just looks a class above everyone else. Someone that just has that X factor, that bit of quality. With his goal, he can kind of make stuff happen out of nothing. I don't know if he's going to start or not, but his return is a massive plus. Cole Palmer, again, hopefully he's not playing as a false line, because that massively limits him. I think Chukwuemeka is a very good player. I'd like to see him starting. So we have got some threats, but again, it just as a cohesive unit, as a team, like it's not functioning that well at the moment. I'm not sure players really know what's being asked of them, and I think we're very much getting through games on moments, whether it's a penalty or moments of individual brilliance, rather than actually. I can't remember the last time really I looked at a Chelsea performance and thought that was a really good team performance. And yes, results are really important, and that's ultimately all that matters. But realistically, I don't think since the Man City 4-4, I've looked at a Chelsea game and gone, do you know what? We were really good today, and that's a big problem in itself.
Yeah. I sort of go back to the point. I say it with same with United. I think Manchester United have got some seriously good footballers, but for whatever reason, it's just not clicking. And I think their fans are frustrated. And a lot of those fans, even the older generation would have been brought up on Sir Alex Ferguson just winning title after title and trophy after trophy. And Chelsea fans of a certain generation, and probably yourself, are going to be a similar sort of thing. You're always used to being at the top end of the table. If you weren't winning the Premier League title, you're at least competing for silverware on other fronts. So it's frustrating when, especially it's not like Chelsea haven't been backed. They've been backed, more than enough. Unfortunately, a lot of the players probably overspent or not quite the right fit for Chelsea. So I assume, it is frustrating for you guys to see, what's going on the pitch. So I think it's going to be a very tough game for Wolves, with teams like this. And like you say, we've been Chelsea, just inconsistent and almost unpredictable. All it takes is one good performance and it'll all click and come together. Poch is a good manager. I know, again, probably there's some debate amongst the Chelsea fans based on his future, but he's a good manager. He can make things click. And I'm just hoping it's not this Sunday, mate. But I think there's a good team there. There's every chance Chelsea can still push for Europe, but you're going to have to have a really, really good run between now and the end of the season.
No, we absolutely are. And keeping players fit is going to be crucial. I mean, we needed a goal scorer in January and we didn't bring one in. We ended up letting one go, which is not probably the most helpful situation. But like it is close. At the moment, we're 10th, which seems to be where we always are. But like in terms of European places, like we are only, we're 5 points off 6th in the table. Like Europa League is not impossible. I mean, just as long as we get some form of European football, that's the most important thing. I mean, just briefly, mate, do you think Wolves can push for Europe? I know it might seem maybe a bit of a bold shout, but you're only 2 points behind us, and like 7th, 8th place could get Conference League. I mean, do you think there's an outside chance? I mean, you're only 3 points behind Newcastle and the Brightons and whatnot. I mean, do you think you could maybe push something Conference League potentially?
Yeah, I can't see any reason why not. I think that's why a lot of Wolves fans are frustrated that we didn't bring in a number 9, because they just feel that little bit of extra firepower can change games. But there's every chance, we picked up some great results first half of the season. We've beaten Manchester City, we've beaten Spurs, obviously beating yourselves. If we can sort of iron out our form against teams in and around and below us, I think there's every chance that Wolves can still push for it. I think we've got individuals that are good enough to be playing at that level of football. It's just consistency for Wolves and picking up some more points away from home. But if we beat United yesterday, we would have been above them in the table. We would have been in a really good position. And our goal difference isn't awful. I know it's just in the negatives at the moment, but it's not diabolical. So there's every chance that we kick on, get some wins, end on a positive goal difference, and there's every chance because against the Brightons, against the Newcastles and so on, I feel we can compete with that level of team quite consistently. So we've just got to do it on. It's all about consistency, mate. And if we could keep our team fit, which touch wood, we've done a good job of so far this season. As an outsider, there's every chance we could maybe surprise a few people.
And last thing before predictions, mate. Obviously, you're still in. How important is the FA Cup this season for Wolves? I know you're into the 5th round now. Next round's quarterfinals. I think you've got a home tie. I can't remember who it's against.
Brighton, yeah,
against Brighton. It's a tough tie, but it's winnable. It's at Molineux. How important is the FA Cup for you this season? And do you think you can maybe get to the latter stages, quarterfinals, draw dependent, maybe a semi-final? I mean, is it something you should be taking seriously?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Wolves have shown this season that teams shouldn't take them for granted. I think Wolves are a very good team. I think a lot of teams will fear playing Wolves. Frustratingly for us, I think, I was hoping that a few more of the big boys would get knocked out, but I think every chance, we beat Brighton in the next round, and like you said, into the quarters, all it takes is someone like Liverpool and City to draw each other, get one of those knocked out. They're the only two teams I fear, really, I think, in the Cup. But Liverpool, I think on our day, we could compete against. City, I know we beat them earlier on in the season, but it's just an anomaly almost. I think they're such a tough team to play against. Well, we got to the FA Cup semi-final, furthest we've got in a long, long time, a few years ago, when we went to Wembley and threw it away, and that was heartbreaking. So it's hard. I think if it was like a semi-final at Old Trafford or Villa Park like they used to do, I wouldn't be as bothered. So it's huge. I mean, for any team, I think outside the top 6, even you guys as well, a cup run's always unbelievable. And especially with Wolves fans, if we had the chance of winning the FA Cup, it's probably a once in a lifetime opportunity, really. So yeah, huge for us. As long as we can compete still on the in the Premier League and on the FA Cup front, it's definitely something Wolves want to do well in.
No, absolutely, mate. I completely agree. And score prediction. You said the away form's not been great, but you don't know what you're going to get with us. How are you feeling? Do you think you can get a point? Do you think you can win?
I think my head is saying probably a 1-1 draw. My heart feels that Wolves can nick it, but I think both teams have got the quality to hurt each other. I think it might be a goal either way, but I think a 1-1 draw. And I think some Chelsea fans might be frustrated, but I think both sets of fans will probably be satisfied with a point out of this game anyway.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I think with 10 unbeaten at home, we need to show a reaction. Wolves are a decent side. I think it will be close. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw, but I think we probably at home maybe just about got enough to get by. I'll probably go with a 2-1 win, but I really don't think there'll be an awful lot in it at all. But mate, thanks so much for your time. It's greatly appreciated. As always, if people want to check out more of what you do, where should they be going?
Just at Talking Walls, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And yeah, thanks a lot for having me on again, man.
Nah, pleasure, mate. No problem at all. Guys, channel will be tagged in the title. Make sure you go over there, subscribe, show Dave some love, and all the guys over there. And I'll catch you again in another one soon.